Hello and welcome to the Final Lap podcast. This is Josh. I'm joined as always by Sam, and we have something a little bit different for you guys today. We're going to be doing a weekend betting preview for the races this weekend. We have all three series, IndyCar, NASCAR, and F1 going this weekend. First off, though, Sam, how are you? How are you doing? Getting ready to get into a busy weekend of racing?
I'm doing great. We got a lot to talk about today. I woke up first thing this morning and watched the sprint qualifying from F1 in China, and now we're about to get into NASCAR and IndyCar as well. It's going to be a great weekend.
Yeah, it should be a very good weekend ahead. To start us off here, we're going to do each of us have placed, or not placed technically, but we are making our three best bets for the weekend ahead. This can be from any of the three series. I'll go first with my first best bet for the weekend, and that is Christopher Bell to win at Homestead. That's plus 800 in the odds. Obviously, he's driving really well right now. He has the best average finish at Homestead as well in the Next Gen era at 5.3. And for those odds, I think it's kind of a steal of a pick and one that's really hard to pass up.
Yeah, I think that's a really great pick because, funny enough, I also had Christopher Bell. I didn't have him to win, even though I picked him to win in our preview podcast last week. I just went with the top five for a hypothetical bet here, plus 135. Just, for all the same reasons I said in the preview pod. Really like his form right now. Obviously, won 3 races in a row already this year. Didn't win last week, but still managed a solid finish. And you look at his record at Homestead, best average finish in the Next Gen era, 2 top fives to his name and a win. I just think he's in prime position here, and I'm actually surprised how good the odds are for him. I think, if you're looking to go for it and swing big, then betting him to win is a great choice as well. But if you're looking for a little bit safer, bet a top 5 at plus 135. I really like.
Yeah, I agree. I just think with how he's been racing lately and his track record and history at Homestead, anything in a top 5, top 3 or a win is a really nice bet there. Next up, switching over to F1, I have Max Verstappen plus 600 to win the Chinese Grand Prix. We saw a P2 from him in the sprint quality, and he was ahead of both the McLarens. Shows that he has, found some pace in that car, despite the fact that Lawson still is struggling a little bit off the pace. So I like him this weekend. I still think the McLarens are quicker, but this doesn't seem to be, Lando's most comfortable track, at least in terms of qualifying. So I think we could see him start a little bit farther back in the pack. He's already out-qualified Piastri once, and I think if he has those two behind him, the sky's the limit for him this weekend.
Yeah, so I've gone with an F1 as well in my top 3 picks, but I've gone a little bit different. I've gone with Lewis Hamilton to finish on the podium at even odds, plus 100. Obviously, there's a good chance he doesn't carry over the pole position that he had in sprint qualifying to the main qualifying and the main race. But it's clear that he really likes this track, has a great history at China, and, it only took him a week for him to finally get in tune with the car, get some things figured out down there in the garage. Obviously, it's going to be an up and down season. He's not going to be on pole every race, every sprint, and whatnot, but I still really like him here for a podium. All you need is slip up from one of the McLarens or Max Verstappen. Those are the only 3 guys ahead of him, and he just qualified ahead of all of those guys for the sprint. So if he can qualify in the top 3 for the Grand Prix, I like him to stay up there and get on the podium at plus 100.
Yeah, I like that bet as well. I actually had that to add to our combined parlay later on. So we'll just keep a check on that and add that in later as well for one of my picks for that. And then lastly, for our 3 big picks, I had Scott McLaughlin heading over to IndyCar plus 450 to win at the Thermal Club. He finished second here in the exhibition style race they had last year, the not really $1 million challenge. If you're looking for a non-Palou bet over an IndyCar to win, I think he is the next best guy given how he drove here last year. Also could have won in St. Pete if if him and his team had decided on a little bit of a different strategy option for them starting on pole there last weekend and had really good pace early in that race. So I think McLaughlin is another guy if you're looking in the non-Palou division right now in IndyCar.
Yeah, so I've just gone with Alex Palou to keep it safe. You can get him at plus 200, still pretty good odds given what he did at this track last year. I mean, he won both his heat race and the main All-Star race convincingly going away, and this is the kind of track that suits him perfectly. Nothing's a guarantee. Like you said, I think Scott McLaughlin's certainly a guy that I would have right behind him as a guy to keep your eye on, but just for me, looking for some safer bets in my three main picks, I'm looking at Alex Palou to win plus 200. As long as there's no major incidents or anything, I really struggle to not see him at least in the podium spots, and a very good chance he ends up in victory lane.
Yeah, I agree. It's going to be hard for anyone to beat Palou really on any weekend in IndyCar, but especially at a track like Thermal. Obviously, he showed strength there last year. I think he won by about 5 seconds over McLaughlin. Palou really in any IndyCar race, I think, is a tough one to go against. But sometimes I just I wanted to go a little bit different, so that's why I went McLaughlin. But I think Palou is definitely a solid bet as well.
Yeah, like I said, I think McLaughlin's a great bet. There'll be a couple other guys I get to later when we go to underdogs and whatnot that I think also have a chance. I don't think it's Palou's no matter what. I just think that he was so good on this track last year, and he's so good on these road course kind of tracks that it's hard to pick against him.
Yeah, I agree. Let's go to our combined parlay here. So we're each going to add 2 legs to the parlay, total 4-leg parlay. We already touched on one of mine. I had Lewis Hamilton to podium. You had him in one of your, big 3 bets. I liked that one as well. Winning the sprint pole, obviously, looks very comfortable in the car this weekend, way more compared to what we saw last weekend in Australia from him. Also Ferrari and Fred Vasseur and a lot of those guys talked about how Melbourne might not have been the best track for them, and they expect better things going forward here. So, if the sprint quality in practice is any indication of that, I would tend to agree. He's also a 5-time winner here as well, so very comfortable around the circuit. I think Lewis Hamilton's pretty much comfortable anywhere, but 5 wins to back it up. I think, for him to get on the podium here after what we saw in sprint qualifying, I think I like that play.
Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, I think he's just so comfortable around the circuit. I mean, you mentioned he had 5 wins. It very well could have been 6 or 7 or even more if some of those COVID races hadn't gotten canceled, especially 2020 and 2021. I mean, he just, he looked so comfortable in the car on that track, and just more comfortable in the car in general this week. So I'm excited to see hopefully Ferrari turn it around a little bit this week and at least get on the podium.
Yeah, I think they look to be that way right now at least. What was your first addition to that combined parlay?
So I've gone back to NASCAR here for the combined parlay, and I'm going with Ryan Blaney top 5 at minus 145 for the Homestead race. Another guy with a great record at Homestead, 2 top 5s in his 3 next-gen races there, led 100 laps, and really just a guy that's kind of due for some good luck. He's had a lot of good runs this year that have been spoiled in one way or another, a lot of them not his fault, and he's just due on a track that he's really comfortable at. He's due for a top finish, and wouldn't surprise me at all if he won the race. But I think top 5, even if you've got a book that offers top 10, the odds might be a little worse, but you got more safety there. I was looking at FanDuel, and they offered top 5 was the most I could get. So that's what I went with. Ryan Blaney, top 5, minus 145.
Yeah, I like that play a lot. Ryan Blaney got the third best average finish here at 7.0 in the next gen area, 2 top 5s in that period as well. So, I like that play a lot. My play is also in NASCAR, and that's Kyle Larson, top 3, plus 110. He's a guy who might not have the average finish to back it up here in the last 3 races at 16. But he's led 296 laps along the way, which is the most of anyone in that time period. Just having some things go wrong here that have prevented him from winning or getting a better finish in that time. But I think that eventually those things will go away, and he'll get a better finish than what we saw or what we have seen the past few times. And I think that if you just play the odds, that the odds kind of tend to favor one of these times he will end up having a pretty good finish, and I think that that'll be this weekend.
Yeah, I think that's a great pick. I'd certainly have my eye on Larson, and he's a guy, I believe he's the odds-on favorite to win the race right now, even though he doesn't have as high of a average finish or a lot of those stats that we look at. He's certainly a guy that's going to be a top contender this week. So for my other podium or my other spot on the parlay, I've gone with another F1 podium bet for this week in China, and that's going to be Oscar Piastri. I've got it minus 210 to finish on the podium. I think that obviously Lando Norris is going to get another chance in qualifying to kind of rectify his sprint qualifying mistakes, but like you said, it seems like a track that he's not incredibly comfortable on. Oscar, coming off of last week, obviously has a lot to prove and a lot of ground to make up to his teammate, and more ground for McLaren to build a potential constructors lead here after this race. And I think he's due for a little bit of a turnaround here, come out and probably qualify in the top 2 or 3, and then maintain a steady ship all the way through and get into one of those podium spots at minus 210.
Yeah, I like that as well, especially him out qualifying Lando to start the weekend in the sprint qualifying. He seems to be pretty level with him so far this weekend. So I like him finishing on the podium as well. I think that's a good play.
Yeah, absolutely. So are we on to our 2 underdogs now?
Yep. We'll finish up here with our 2 underdog picks for the weekend, and this my first underdog pick here is one that I think I might be the most excited for of any of the picks of the weekend, and that's AJ Allmendinger plus 900 for a top 5 at Homestead. Surprisingly, he is tied for the best average finish at Homestead in the last 3 races here at 5.3, tied with Christopher Bell, who we mentioned earlier. He has finishes of 8th, 5th, and 3rd so in that time period. I really like that play as an underdog pick, a guy who you can get really good odds for, but also has the stats and the history here to back it up. So I really like that play, Allmendinger plus 900 for a top 5.
Yeah, that was a guy that I had my eyes on given his history at this track, and obviously his history across the Cup Series, Xfinity Series, and so on. Just a proven veteran that knows what he's doing around Homestead, so I think that's a great pick. I've also gone with, not really NASCAR Series veteran, but our most recent NASCAR Series winner. I like Josh Berry to keep it going, and I've gone with a top 5 here, plus 420. Obviously, not something I'm going to put the house on because Wood Brothers had back-to-back great runs, and it's going to be tough for them to keep that form going forever. But Barry is really good at this track. The first time he tried it out, an 11th place finish, looked pretty solid, and I think that this is just a track that obviously suits the car and suits Barry as well, and just like them to keep up the good form here. This is another one, if you have a book that offers top 10, might be a little bit better if you like those odds. But for an underdog pick, top 5 at plus 420, this is the 13th best odds of anyone in the field for a top 5, and I just think they have a good shot to keep the form going this week.
Yeah, I like that play a lot as well, especially with how Barry has been driving the past few weeks for the Wood brothers. To finish off here with my last underdog pick, I'm going back to IndyCar. I'm going to go Felix Rosenqvist to podium at the Thermal Club at plus 550. Finished last year's race in third at the Thermal Club, and also started off the season strong with a P3 qualifying performance and a 7th place finish in St. Pete. Shows that he is, in good form right now, and you combine that with his performance here last year. I know it's an exhibition race, much different style than what we're going to see in a real points-paying race this season or this year, but I still I like that play for an underdog for Rosenqvist to get on the podium.
Yeah, that's a great one. I was looking for some IndyCar podium odds. They didn't have them on FanDuel, but if you can find them, I think that's a great play. I think for my last underdog pick here, I've gone with IndyCar, and I've gone with Colton Herta to win at plus 950 here at Thermal Club. Obviously, a California native. He came in 4th last year in this feature race, so just off the podium. And he really did drive a very good race in St. Pete. I had him as my stinker of the week, but a lot of that was just the team mistakes and shortcomings that weekend. It really felt like he should have been up there fighting for the win or a podium at least. So I think Herta's due for a little bit of a rebound here. And if you can get him for a podium, that would be great too. But for a win at plus 950, that gives you decently long odds on a guy that I think has a real shot to win.
Yeah, I like that play too, especially given the fact that Herta had a great chance to win at St. Pete before everything went wrong for him. He was on the right strategy, and I believe leading that strategy as well. So I think that's a great play, and Herta seemed to be very motivated and fired up after that disappointing performance in St. Pete. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him come out at all this week and lay down a good race.
Yeah, he obviously has a lot to race for this year, even if the F1 rumors, don't come to fruition, even if that's further off than we think. There's still a lot to race for, him racing for a first IndyCar title or, at least a finish in the top few there. And I think, like you said, he's going to be hungry, he's going to be motivated, and I think this is a track that could suit him and at least find his way onto the podium, and I think at those odds, wins a good shot.
Yeah, I agree. Well, that's all of our betting picks for the weekend. I would like to add, I don't think it has to be said, but we're not betting experts, so this is just for fun. And I think it's, just something fun to keep an eye on and to add an element to the race weekend as well. So I think that that wraps it up for this episode. I'm excited for the weekend ahead. There's a lot of racing, a lot of good racing ahead as well, I think. So, very excited.
Yeah, me too. I'm pumped for first full weekend with all these series, and we're going to have a lot to talk about early next week when we get back to you, and really start to get a feel on how these are going to go for the rest of the year.
Yep, I agree. Thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you guys next time.
Yep, talk to you.